You're right lads, this is the Geordie Jedi here doing my next football season review. Hull City, they finished 16th this season, which sounds bad. However, when you've got European football next season and they played in the FA Cup final and could have won it, you know, an outstanding season for Hull City, a brilliant season. You know, they brought in Steve Bruce and he's done an amazing job, I think. So, started off the season, they were fighting for top half football, for top 10. You know, I mean, they never really entered it that often, but they're always, 11th, 12th, 13th. You know, they were always thereabouts, and a good Premier League run would have gotten them into 10th. They got close, and they kept 14th, 13th, for majority of the season until April-ish, which is when the FA Cup started to take its toll a bit, I think. They got into the FA Cup final, they beat some tough teams, Sheffield United. I know it doesn't sound like a tough team, but for them to get into the semi-final, you have to consider that Sheffield United beat some big teams to make it into the FA Cup semi-final. So they are a tough team to play, because you can't argue it. Because if they can get to the semi-final, then they can also get to the final. But they didn't. Hull City fended them off and they're in. Anyways, got into the FA Cup final. They got two goals straight away. I've done a review of that game, and they did brilliantly. They played incredibly well. First half in particular, there was nothing they could do about the Santi Cazorla free kick. That was going in either way. Well, I mean, McGregor did get his hand to it. You could argue that perhaps he should have done better, and he probably should have done, but it was a brilliant free kick. There's no shame in that one going in. They should have stopped the other goal for me, I think, but there's nothing they could do. It's a shame. Didn't get the FA Cup final and Europa League next season. One thing that cost them this season was strikers. Matty Fryatt was their top goal scorer with 6 goals. I mean, Jelavic and Long came in and scored 5 and 4 respectively in only half a season, so I think they might have somewhat solved that problem, especially for next season. But they would have finished 11th or top half even if they'd got a 10 plus at least goal scorer. But their defence and their organisation was their big advantage. Their defence in particular, they didn't let many goals in. Did an amazing job in their defence. There's Steve Bruce's own son, Chester, as their captain. McGregor had a brilliant season as the goalkeeper. Everything about it, everywhere apart from striker, they had a perfect season, I'd say. But they brought in Huddleston and Livermore to add to their passing. Basically, the defence made sure nothing got past them. Their midfield made sure that the ball kept moving around. They didn't lose possession that often, and when they did lose possession, they knew precisely what to do to try to stop the other team. They put themselves in the way. They passed it around brilliantly when they had the ball. They got it to the strikers. The strikers had a fair number of chances. They just didn't put them away as often as they should. Anyways, for next season, they need to do one of two things. They need to either bolster their squad a lot with millions. They need to spend over what their budget probably is if they want to do well in the Europa League. Or they need to do what I suggested to Everton as well, which is ignore the Europa League, put out the reserves, a mixture of reserves and first team footballers or bench warmers. If they're lucky, they might get a weak group, which will be preferable. Maybe they'll get past the group stages. Any more than round of 32 might be asking a bit for me, and it'll cost them in the Premier League. This is a lesson we in Swansea learnt. It will cost you in the Premier League if you put the Europa League ahead of what it should be. Champions League, fair enough, you can get so much money from the Champions League. But the Europa League is something it's nice to be in. It's nice to have European football, but it can cost you the Premier League without making enough money to put yourself in a good position. So personally, ignore the Europa League unless you're willing to spend a lot of money. Anyways, overall I've had an amazing season. Keep Steve Bruce, keep every player you've got. I'd say wouldn't sell anyone. Even Steve Harper, who's pretty good as a backup goalkeeper. Whenever he played, he didn't do terrible. He did, and because he's old, he's done well, and he deserves a coach, and he deserves a coach in place. I'd say a player coach, like Giggs kind of got. Anyways, been Jody Jedi. Leave a like if you want, subscribe if you want. May the force be with you.